Alright, yeah, g'day everyone, welcome back to the vlog. I honestly wasn't going to do this vlog today, but I got a little bit carried away and basically I've kind of already started. Today we're going to be installing some gauges. Now we have an AEM boost gauge and an AEM air fuel ratio gauge. And at the moment I thought I'd just show you what I have done so far. Basically my first step to kind of figuring this all out. For the air fuel ratio gauge to work, we need to plug in an O2 sensor. Plugs into your dump pipe to a connector pin, hooks into the other end of the connector pin, and we finally get a connector pin that hooks up to the gauge itself. So this obviously has to go on the car and the other end has to be in the engine bay. Now what I also have is a boost gauge. So for a boost gauge to work, we are going to need a pressure sensor basically, and this is a little pressure sensor in here, and what you do is you connect your hose up to here. So basically a vacuum hose that hooks up to this connection. It goes to a little pressure sensor here, and then obviously this is all in a bowl still. The wire runs through your engine bay and then through into a little connector pin that hooks up to the gauge itself. Alright, so as you can see, I have the wheel off. I've got the fender liner down a little bit. I have pushed through this bung here, through the fender liner where that yellow cable goes through, and that's where I'm going to be feeding all my wires through. Now to get a good look at that, it's basically on this left side here, up a little, pull that back, and there it is right in there. Alright, update. It's been only about 5 minutes, but I've been able to thread both the air fuel ratio O2 sensor cable and the boost gauge pressure sensor through the fender liner, right through that bung there. Both those cables are hanging in. Alright, so I've threaded it through the fender, it just comes through this bit here. What I'm going to need to do now is I'm going to have to make this nice and neat and tidy in the engine bay, route it around so we can connect both the O2 sensor cable up and a vacuum hose So first of all, we've plugged it into the dump pipe and tightened it up with a wrench or shifter spanner. Now, next I've routed it through there and it's come up over here, just above the intercooler. I've zip tied it here, tied it around here, zip tied it again, and I've pulled a little sneaky around there, and I've zip tied it right here. So it looks nice and OEM, you can't see it. As for these wires, I will be masking them up with some tape eventually, and then we can just route this to go back down into the fender liner. Alright, now that we've plugged in the wideband sensor, the O2 sensor, we're going to do the boost gauge now. We're going to plug all that up. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the pressure sensor here that has a hose joint here. We've got the hose joint, well, we've got the hose here that will be linking up to a T-piece. So the middle bit's going to go in here, and then we need to join this up to a vacuum hose. So this is going to be in the middle of a vacuum hose. Now, usually a lot of people go for the vacuum hose that's on the blower valve here, but considering this is so short and it's actually quite small on the end there, we're going to go for this one. I've just pulled it off here, but this is a little vacuum hose that goes into the intake manifold just down here. It's quite a small hose, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it here, then I'm going to link the T-piece up here and put it all back in. We've made a cut, there we go, fits on perfectly, and we've connected the other piece up, so this is where our vacuum line hose is going to go to. So I'll just hook this back up. As you can see, there's a little T-piece hanging off there. We've hooked it all back up. So now that is left is to hook up the vacuum line from here. So, got the vacuum line hose on now, and I've just routed it down here, down near the intake, and back up here. So now that's left is to put this in some boiling water just to loosen this up a bit, so then we can connect this up to the sensor. And there we have it, all linked up. This is kind of like as far as it would go. It was really temperamental, but I'll try and put it on a little bit further. It's still got like 2 notches easily, but nice and tight, which is what we want, so it's not going to blow up. And now we just need to kind of like place it somewhere and make it all nice and neat. Alright, so we have everything plumbed up, everything wired in, all the way back down into the dash. So here's all the wire. All the wires are sitting down there for now. We've got this off just to access all the wiring. So now we need to figure out a way to take this off and get some access from here down to here so we can install the gauge pod. So the first thing you want to do, you want to remove this air vent here. Now it's a bit of a bitch to do, but basically I just used a trim tool and I just pried it out from underneath and it just popped out, and you actually required a bit of force. Thought I was going to break something, but I didn't, so just pop that out like that. Alright, so the next thing what we want to do is we want to thread our cables all the way up the side here, so it comes out here. So this one's for boost, so there's the boost one. We've threaded all the cables through, and now we just need to pop them through the gauge pod. It's very hard to film obviously when I need 2 hands to do this, but what I've done is I've got my 2 air fuel ratio ones in the first one, and in the second one I have my boost gauge. So now we just need to click this back into the vent like so. Then next we're going to hook up our boost gauge and our air fuel ratio gauge, just so these wires don't go back through here. Shit, yeah, so we got the boost there and the air fuel ratio there. Damn boy, that looks good. Okay, so basically you've done all the plumbing, you've got the wires down to the dash, you've got the gauges in, you've got the pod in, and the only thing you need to do is you need to power it and ground it. Now these AEM gauges are the X series gauges, so they only come with a switched power source, which is 1 red wire and a black ground. All the other wires that are attached to it are for logging, so they go into your ECU. I'm not going to be doing that as I have no need to really log or anything. I just want to see how much boost I'm making, what my air fuel ratios are like, especially for when like someone goes to tune it. Make sure everything's all safe basically. So the best way I've found is to use a fuse tapper into one of the 12-volt fuses under your dash. Now I've tapped into the cigarette lighter, and that's 12 volts. So as you can see, that yellow crimp there is what I've used with this screw right here. So I've crimped the black wires there, and also that, it's hard to see I know, also that red wire right there that goes into my fuse box is a fuse tapper. Basically, I've just got the 2 wires, the boost and the air fuel ratio wires, twisted them together, crimped them in, power to the fuse box, and then the 2 ground wires, twisted them together, crimped them to a ground, which was that screw. So now all I need to do is tidy up the cables underneath and tuck them away with a few zip ties, and we're basically done. Alrighty guys, well that is the ATI Dual Gauge pod for the 08 to 14 WRX install, along with the AEM X Series boost gauge and AEM X Series wideband air fuel ratio gauge. This has all been done in a 2013 WRX, and I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't too hard. It was just a bit time consuming, and you're gonna like really get everything nice and right. Did not have to pull apart much, just the fender liner, a couple of little screws on the dash, feed it all through, and just take your time doing it. I hope you guys found this video informative. I hope that now you have the confidence to do it yourself. Let me know in the comments section below if you actually have done these gauges yourself and on the same car. I would love to see what they look like. Thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you guys next time.